Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the verge of starting. You can see that there are many of us on the rostrums. It's almost like a rugby team. So a united team within a single ecosystem. We are ready to start.
Mesdames, Messieurs, bonjour, bienvenue.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Equipoto, in particular within this area devoted to conferences. We are here in Lyon, that's right in the middle of the Auvergne region, and hydrogen is the connection between Lyon and Equipoto. And if you haven't noted that, but you will see that there is a specific area devoted to hydrogen, where we talk a lot about vehicles and the ecosystem. We are almost as numerous as a rugby team. That's quite normal because of the games currently. So an ecosystem is something that hold together. All these players have to hold together, and we have organized a sort of ecosystem who normally should be able to make sure that you understand everything about hydrogen. We have the representative of Michelin, were very much involved nationally and internationally, and first Vice President and Jean-Luc BROSSARD from PFA, President of CCFA, and a representative, an elected representative from the Lyon city area. So, he is also president of the Commission on Economy and Relocation. Relocation, in particular in the industrial sector, is very important. Then Richard Meyer, then Bertrand MORIN for HYVIA, then Thomas CREMOUX for CARA, Jessica with Jean-Philippe Jacques. And we shall be talking about retrofitting, not only for the OEM, but also retrofitting and the training that is required for that. And then you have the representative of Plastic Omnium, and then SYMBIO. SYMBIO, by the way, they have a specific stand dealing with hydrogen, and he's the Vice President for Marketing and Products. Then SYMBIO Academy, that's for the training part of this session, Olivier desk, representing HRS, because it's important for stations and fact to be represented. Without station, there is no possibility of ensuring mobility. And then you have somebody to represent the national, let's say, level. So for those who want to have some refresh as to where France stands in terms of hydrogen, the national strategy was published in September 2020, and funding program, 9 million in order to produce 680,000 tons per year. So 9.9 billion, not million, 9 billion. So to fund this whole sector, 2 billion will be devoted to the building of the gigafactories for SYMBIO, Plastic Omniums, HYVIA, and other automotive players are involved in those factories. Then call for tenders to create territorial or geographical ecosystems. We do have one in the region. I think you will be talking about the Impulsion project. Then you have the version 2 of the strategy, hydrogen strategy, that would soon be publicized. It's going to be integrated within the country's endeavor to lower the carbon generation. So hydrogen strategy, we hope that this will really help in terms of mobility powered by hydrogen. Yes, Christophe, your region plays a sort of pioneer role with the JACQUES project. Yes, indeed, our region has been a front runner, and that was since 2018 by establishing ENGIE and Michelin working with us with the ZEV project, ZEV, Zero Emission Vehicle. Then we also created ASS Impulsion, and this was aimed at, in fact, supporting the merchants of this sector. There are two key elements. First of all, the stations. Without the hydrogen stations, in fact, the sector will not survive. And then also support the purchase of the very first vehicles. In 2019, a call for tender, or rather a call for interest, in fact, has been launched, and we did support the acquisition of 50 hydrogen-powered vehicles. And for the call for tender, well, I think that you still have time to submit your request. We already have 383 vehicles, in fact, that have been ordered. So ADEME in Europe could provide support in order to make sure that these vehicles are competitive enough as compared to the fossil fueled vehicles. Now, today, we note that mobility as a concept is gaining ground in the various regions, starting with the Rhône-Alpes region. They started early with the ambition not just to expand the use of hydrogen for mobility purposes, but also decarbonization of industry and energy production. The Occitanie region is also active, Franche-Comté. All regions in France are now considering the subject, and they are building what they call an hydrogen valley. So in fact, an ecosystem developed at a regional level, but at the same time, it's a sort of pan-European project. 100 million euros subsidies have been made available by Europe, so that there can be up to 50 hydrogen valleys in Europe. And we already have 9. And this year, there would be a few more valleys that would be added. And then to reach the objective, this means that the number of valleys would have to be established significantly in 24 and 25. We talk about the fuel cell and the use of hydrogen, and there are various approaches. Well, in fact, one shouldn't oppose hydrogen and electric vehicles. You just have to focus on the usages. The possibility, for example, to drive for a given time, how much your mileage, let's say, in a given period of time. So we have to take into account other technologies and not just the batteries. So these two technologies are therefore complementary. The electric, the fuel cell technology and the battery technology both responds to different usage cases. And you know that the European regulation authorizes 5 grams of CO2 per ton and per kilogram, so which helps in fact to come up with alternative solutions. So depending on the usages, we have considered the segments in which potentially it is possible to come up with an alternative solution to the diesel, and I mean putting the electric solution aside. So first of all, light vehicles. Richard will certainly take the floor on behalf of Stellantis. The fleet of private vehicles, in particular taxis, as well as buses and trucks, intensively used trucks. So to respond to those usages, we need to come up with additional solutions. I mean, electric vehicle would be the main solution. That is minus 55% reduction in CO2 emission compared to 2021 for the private vehicles, minus 50% for the light commercial vehicles, and minus 45% for industrial vehicles. So the only way for us to reach this target that was set for us is to strongly push in favor of electrification, and one of the solutions would be hydrogen. Well, for visible, for buses, and yes, in fact, buses play the role of a sort of a showcase. Yes, this is where hydrogen usage emerged with schemes developed at European level. There are 39 hydrogen-powered buses that are used throughout different places in France, and a total of 800 such vehicles are expected by the different cities. 800 such hydrogen-powered, and it covers something like 50 different local authorities using these vehicles. And we've got the trucks. Well, there already are a number of initiatives with demos already being performed. A number of initiatives have been taken, and in Occitanie, for the possibility for the vehicles to travel through that region and to go to Spain. So no less than 50 hydrogen-powered trucks will be available next year. Now, our two main car manufacturers are present Stellantis for with Richard. You already have models in your three brands. Yes, our role as the leader in the LCVs is to come up with solutions including zero emissions without any compromise. Well, customers are prepared to go in that direction if there is no compromise. In 2021, we electrified all of our LCVs, and we currently have up to 47% of the market in France, but that's not enough to cover all usage cases by our customers, in particular those with intensive usage. Either they carry goods or carry people. And so we wanted to come up with a full offer, that is product and services, that's important for intensive usage. So as I said, 2021, we were a pioneer using a fuel cell. That was for Peugeot Expert, the medium van vehicles. So from the customer side, in fact, the interest of such vehicle is that, once again, no compromise in terms of payload, in terms of capacity, and refueling can be done in a few minutes, and all of that without any emission at all. Now, talking about the industrial segment in France, we rely very much on that sector because much depends on the production of hydrogen. We're working with SYMBIO, one of our partners. Yes, indeed. That's a sign of commitment. You even became a shareholder of your supplier. Yes, it's also because we trust the partner, and we also want this hydrogen, let's say, a policy to be long-lasting. Patrick, Well, all of that is symbolic. Well, it's first of all a confirmation of the fact that the technology is mature and that also the industrial commitment. We are working with the number 4 worldwide, and leader in the LCVs, and therefore it helps us really to move forward with that factory. With Michelin, we joined SYMBIO's capital in 2014. At that time, not much was talked about hydrogen-powered mobility. And having Stellantis joining, whether it be Christophe or Richard, all of that speeds up the development. It's a strong signal for the market. It also illustrates our ability to turn to leading operators willing to go the electric way, and hydrogen solution is a potent one. Well, for deliveries and for others, but also applications specific for the taxis. Yes, we do have a number of customers, and this illustrates the relevance of the hydrogen solution for intensive usage. That is, in fact, with significant mileage, permanent availability of the vehicles. So some of our customers, taxis, and other personal, operators transporting people with disability. So it is important to have players that can work together. So moving to the next speaker, representing Renault, and you will be talking later on about training, but let's start with the basics. HYVIA, that's in fact a joint factory with a joint venture with an American fuel cell producer. So the fuel cell, the molecules, production and distribution. So 50-50, we also have a 50-50 French joint venture, Renault and Plug Power, based in the eastern part of France. The assembly of the fuel cells at Flins, and the fitting in the Paris region. Now, well, in terms of office, it's around very much like the Masters, 12 cubic centimeter capacity, and we are also in the full chain. We have the recharging stations, possibility of providing the hydrogen molecule with hydrolyzers, and we have one in Flins, in the Flins, and the first molecules were produced 2 weeks ago. So, question for both of you. I assume that's not one-off, it's something that you invest, you're involved in for years. Well, we already submitted a very ambitious roadmap, which we are implementing rigorously, which is a testimony to our commitment. As I said before, our first product was launched in 2021, and by next year we shall industrialize the product in the same production line like the battery-powered vehicles and the internal combustion engine vehicles. And in 2024, we shall expand our offering by covering, Peugeot boxes and so on. So this will help enhance our installed capacity up to 10,000 units per year. And beyond that stage, we have announced a number of steps, like expanding to the Northern America. Pickups will be equipped with those technologies in Northern America. Bertrand? Well, same strategy. Native integration from 2024, so mass production. And in terms of volumes, we're going to be similar like what the previous speaker said. We Well, it's a long-term. Long-term, why? Because investments we refer to are comparatively large, R&D, manufacturing, and aftermarket. What's important to have products, vehicles on the road, but you need to be able to repair them, to maintain them. So therefore, it's not just a one-off, it's not just a test for a year. We are here for a long period. I'm not going to even say a deadline, because there is no deadline, no limit, in fact, time limit, I mean. So, and then you also have the equipment manufacturers, world-class OEMs. Our hydrogen policy was designed in such a way that, SYMBIO, Plastic Omnium, and the two main manufacturers are committed, so that France, as an entity, is competitive in that area. Equipment manufacturers, you remember the the important project for common European interest, so they have joined to build factories which are, going to be available very soon. Plastic Omnium, you started to build a factory in Compiègne, and there's another reservoir factory that is being implemented also. So France is ahead of the other European countries, and hydrogen helps to ensure sovereignty, which we can't have with the other type of sources of energy. And well, SYMBIO, we can see maps of that factory, and you are getting ready to scale up. Yes, indeed. Our history has been impressive. We started like a startup in 2010, and since the establishment of the joint venture with Michelin and others, we developed very quickly, even settling in Asia, in Northern America, in Germany, jointly with Stellantis, and we were able to attract a significant investment from France as a state, from the European Union, and so that overall we were able to invest up to 1 billion euros between 2022 and 2028. One of these outcomes is visible in the region of Lyon. So we have another center, which is our headquarters, and at the same time a production center and also a research center. So it's an integrated center, the first integrated center in Europe, if not worldwide. Even other Hyundai and others, in fact, don't even have such systems, integrated factories. So this was also done with a German joint venture. It basically means that we are ahead of other players, and we are, of course, very pleased to accompany Stellantis, but also CARA. We believe on what you can do with the hydrogen for the LCVs, but also truck, but also buses, and well, after 2030, maybe there will be other applications. Christophe, I assume that you are proud to have such a factory next door, close to Lyon. Yes, we have been supporting the Gigafactory project, and our philosophy in the region was to develop an integrated sector, including our R&D, training, industrialization, and infrastructure. Yes, indeed, the region has been a historical partner in many of our projects. Thank you for that. Well, in fact, we in the people represented here, you have the regional representation. So you propose the fuel, but the fuel cell, but also the reservoirs. Well, we produce the fuel cell systems, and also the storage. So with Erling Klinger in Germany, jointly we can, in fact, come up with fuel cells of different power, and there's also the introduction, then industrialization of the reservoir systems to supply to customers present here, HYVIA and Stellantis for the light commercial vehicles, and storage systems for heavier vehicles. So our future factory, we started building it in Compiègne. That's the way for us to industrialize the process, and we would like to do the same internationally. Well, as equipment manufacturers, this opens up prospects. It's not just LCVs, it's much beyond LCVs. Well, we also cover rail transport, so therefore the scope is wide open. And our core business is what we call on-road, but we also consider the off-road usages for logistics, for elevator tracks, in the building sector, in the agricultural segment, and as Christophe put it, railways, maritime transportation, all those sectors need to get rid of the carbon, and they also need at the same time a source of energy that can be powered for a long period, and hydrogen is a solution to all these endeavors. Your business is developing in the US? Yes, indeed. We were able to win a number of big markets, including the establishment of a dedicated factory to serve customers in the US. Ford, you already heard about it, but also another manufacturer. We're not going to reveal the name. No, we would be pleased to hear the name of that company. No, even under torture, I'm not going to reveal the name. But just remember that we're not developing our activities just in the US, but also in Asia, in particular Korea, and a joint venture in China. So we are developing worldwide, taking into account up to 200,000 reservoirs can be produced. So this gives you an idea of our current scope. Well, for us, of course, we do have Stellantis that contributed to accelerating our development in Northern America. We have a pilot site in California to assemble up to 2,000 systems per year. And by 2026-27, we would like to have a large factory. The site has already been identified. We have a project to follow the first productions to serve the large manufacturers. And since we are in Lyon, we have decided to invite the competitiveness area, CARA. Well, they deal with different issues like mobility, from cars to ships. So, how do you lend support to the development of the hydrogen sector in the current situation where we talk much about energy transition? Well, the region funds the development of the roadmap, and Accelera, and another company with whom we're working, and a number of events are organized all along the year. We do have working groups. We are also proceeding to the mapping of the different players in that sector. Well, and among the original players in that sector again, well, we did talk about the fuel cell, but also the hydrogen engine. That's something that is of interest for different stakeholders. Yes, the advantage of such a solution that would be sitting next to the fuel cell development is that you will be able to continue to use the industrial fabric already here in our industrial valley. We do have combustion engineering capabilities and so on. So those technologies and know-how can be kept as well as the jobs related. So how can the automotive industry adapt and take full advantage of the opportunities? Well, the idea is to be neutral. In our sector, we're trying to be neutral, not to be biased, I mean, and try to see, to check the best solution. It could be hydrogen, it can be battery-based, and other solutions. Much will depend on the costs. So the solutions that have been, dealt with. So we look at those solutions for vehicles, for trains. You know, the lifetime of the train is up to, between 40 and 50 years. So the sector, different sectors will adapt to the available technologies. Well, there might be questions about the cost. We know that, of course, an LCV powered by hydrogen is expensive, the same for buses. So I heard there are good news, encouraging news you can reveal. Yes, indeed, we have very quickly decided to mass produce so as to very quickly get the cost down. And I think that this is the prerequisite for the entire sector to really take off. That's true for the fuel cell, it's true for the reservoir, and I think it is important to insist that the heavier the vehicle, the higher the mileage. What matters is the cost of the hydrogen used. We certainly have a lot of effort to make. Our cost roadmap is that the cost will be divided by 10 during the next decade, but provided that we have hydrogen at a competitive price. What about the reservoir? Well, we are in the process of industrializing to get the prices down, and with regard to the fuel cell, we need to be able to mass produce so that the prices would be competitive enough. That's key for hydrogen-powered mobility. We did talk about the current vehicles, and the current offering is quite limited. Now, let's talk about retrofitting, which could be the way to respond to the needs expressed by professionals.
Et ça tombe bien, car Philippe.
So the whole point of changing the drivetrain, this is what you do at JCFA. Yes, to complete the new car offer, JCFA, which is a green organization, offers technical solutions to accelerate the decarbonization of the car park. We're organized in 3 poles. The first technological pole consists in developing technical solutions for vehicles already on the road, for example, with the development of electric motors, of hydrogen ICE engines. So we have different possibilities with different companies in the group. We have the mobility pole that I belong to, where we offer the solutions which integrate fuel cells on vehicles in the existing car park, vehicles that we transform. And the third pole is the energy pole, where we complete the vehicle offer with an energy offer. And with 1 or 2 transformed vehicles, we can propose a rapid charging solution. We cannot compete, obviously, with our colleagues who supply energy and recharging, because they have a fixed solution. Pierre, we'll talk about infrastructures after, and Olivier, will have you in a minute. I'd like to point out that JCFA Mobility is exhibiting a race car on your stand here. So the retrofit of race cars, not really. That's not in my area. We're offering this retrofit for vehicles, for industrial vehicles, but this is also a very good support to validate technical solutions. And then we can, you know, implement them on the mass-produced vehicles. To give you some information on the offer of GCK Mobility, we are in fact in Clermont-Ferrand in the Aura region, and we have the possibility of transforming orders. We've transformed a bus, an interurban bus, into a clean hydrogen vehicle. In our deployment plan today, we are in the process of homologation. The task is difficult, but we are respecting our timetable. In the coming weeks, before the end of the year, in any case, I hope so, we will have the homologation of our first vehicle. One point that I would like to mention here is that the players here complain a great deal about the whole problem of type approval. Couldn't France Hydrogène move more quickly? Well, we're working with the authorities. We're working with some work groups to accelerate the process. Hydrogen, just as was the case for batteries and the ICE a couple years ago, when you put vehicles on the road, you have to ensure that from the safety point of view, from the homologation and type approval point of view, things be done right. You know, we're in a starting phase, so yes, we need to find the ways of accelerating the process because we need the vehicles immediately. I'd like to remind you that between the low emission zones in cities that are being created, when we talk about electrification and the Army with the ICE vehicles, the changes for 2035, the different CO2 standards means we need the technology. So we need to see how we can accelerate the process from the point of view of homologation and type approval without compromising on these safety rules. Christophe, your view of retrofit possibilities, buses, for example? Well, here the region is supporting this. We have launched a call for tender for the retrofitting of 50 hydrogen buses. So as the gentleman said, the first of these retrofitted buses is at GCK's premises. So we have to have models for industrial vehicles and buses. The number of models is limited. So once the type approval will be obtained by GCK for one of its vehicles, I think that the accreditation of the others will be rapid. Yes, I think we have some good prospects for developing these transformations. There's the transformation of the bus, but there are others as well. We're also being contacted for other types of vehicles. So at the moment, there is still a early project study underway on the transformation of trucks, you know, the semis or others. We have a community which has, in fact, retained our offer for the transformation of garbage trucks into hydrogen-powered. So there are various opportunities to propose clean vehicles. So that contract is in Dunkerque. But I think that in the Rhone Valley region, there has been a contract for another type of vehicle for the transformation of public works vehicles. But here we have the opportunity of having been chosen for the retrofitting of 5 machines for the compaction of snow on ski runs at the ski resort of Avoriaz. We hope to have the first prototype on the snow and on the slopes this winter. SYMBIO, like Plastic Omnium, is involved in this retrofitting activity? Yes, of course, because not everyone has the vision of Stellantis or Renault. And so in the truck sector, in fact, the first programs will arrive in 2027, 2028. Now, the regulations are on the move, and so we have the need to decarbonize, and we hope to be able to exploit this with various partners. GCK is one of them, of course. And we're going to work with certain segments of the LCVs and others. You know that retrofitting is very important to improve the speed of hydrogen mobility. We are a partner for retrofitting missions. We supply this to Iveco, to Safra, and these things are extremely relevant. As Philippe has said, there's also the retrofit in terms of the ICE hydrogen engine. So there's the question of the hydrogen storage, and there's the whole, there's also, I think that the coalition you're referring to is Retrofit H2, which groups together players in the coach, bus, truck, heavy trucks, etc. sector. Yes. So I think that you are accompanying the local players to develop a retrofit kit. Well, the snow grooming machine that was mentioned was labelized by CARA. What is CARA? CARA is an association, and our role is to represent the sector. And once they are recognized, we're going to help them finance research and development. So the CARA, which is a competitiveness poll, well, companies come to see us with a project they want financed. We have a scientific poll which is going to study the financing, study the development timetable, ensure that the consortium has the necessary elements. And this is what happened with the snow grooming machine. It was labelized because the project had a good qualities and answered the needs of the subsidiary. Well, that's good. We now see that there are two good French retrofit actors. You know, when we talk about the circular economy, we talk about retrofit activities. As far as hydrogen is concerned, is this meaningful for us? You know, there's the refactory, which reconditions vehicles. And at refactory, we don't recondition the vehicle because you need to have an electric vehicle base, and there are too many things to do. What we produce is reman, standard exchange, for the fuel cells, and maybe at some time for the tanks, the storage tanks. Stellantis, what we are interested in the retrofit activity is to be able to answer the needs of our customers, the customers we want to accompany. Here we have customers who are very sensitive to the economic aspects. To have the cheapest solution possible, tell them that it's cheaper than buying a new vehicle. You know, customers have a vehicle, they've invested in the vehicle, they've transformed it, adapted it to their needs, and what they want is to keep the vehicle and to simply have it shift to an electric zero-emission mode. So the decision we made was to develop the offer, and in 2024, we're going to be launching in the market with the partner CREMOUX a concrete and sure answer, because we're going to put on board components that exist on the shelf, at Stellantis, and others which are supplied by our partner. Alors, Jean-Luc, this is a very interesting activity. What's important is to be able to ramp up Jean-Luc BROSSARD. PFA. Yes, what's interesting is to decarbonize the existing car park. And that's why with Richard, we say we have to accompany customers. And so the fastest approach, in fact, for customers is to find solutions, that is to say, fuels which are decarbonized. You heard that, in fact, Richard Meyer said that 28 of their engines can operate with these decarbonized fuels. So this is an opportunity for the existing car park. It's an opportunity for accelerating the way in which we appropriate the hydrogen technology and the electric technology. Now, as far as infrastructure is concerned, that's point 5 here. I must say that everyone's comfortable. Now, you know that the zero-emission project has led to the development of new infrastructures. Well, the first visibility in terms of infrastructures is the hydrogen stations themselves, stations open to the public rather than the stations which are only open to the industrial users. Today we have 4 such stations. 2 will be opened at the end of the year. Within the framework of a ZEV2, we want to open up a whole series of stations in the Rhône-Alpes region. So the infrastructures are essential. The objective is that these stations be laid out for the industrial vehicles, which are a priority target for the development of the hydrogen use. We are going to support the acquisition of 100 or so heavy industrial vehicles in the coming years, of which 50 are buses. So you, Valérie, Michelin is a part of this. Yes, Michelin is part of this. I think this is a very good example of a public-private partnership because this project was co-built and developed with the region industrial partners like Michelin. This company was created in 2019. The project goes back to 2017. In 2019, we created this company with the Crédit Agricole, a territorial bank. So this is going to be one of the first regions to have a hydrogen station network for professionals covering the territory north, south, east, west, and thus driving like a ICE engine but without the pollution. What's important to note as well is that this project has also served as the basis of a very ambitious hydrogen strategy by the region. This has enabled the region to position itself today on a very broad approach to mobility with the hydrogen application. So it's one of the major axes, but not the only one. Thank you, Valérie. I'd like to introduce Olivier Des from HRS. We'll explain what HRS means. HRS is a beautiful story, a subcontractor of Air Liquide. And because the hydrogen stations have a lot of piping, it was a real opportunity for you. Yes, indeed. Well, we want to thank Impulsion as well because they enabled us to really taking off by trusting us along with McAfee and Dataway, and so they're real partners in the project. We changed strategies, went from industrial piping to the refueling station in 2019. Today, we have a factory capable of producing 200 stations per year. Last year, we've set up some 12 stations in Europe. We had the intention to move to 34 stations. So today, when you look at the number of stations in Europe, there's a little under 200, and we've produced a little over 50 of them. So we are indeed ready to take up the hydrogen mobility challenge and the refueling of vehicles, because this is slightly more complex than putting gas in your car. Now, I think that the question is to enhance the flow so that the filling can go more quickly. Yes, one of the major advantages mentioned earlier was the speed of refueling. Today, you can fill a vehicle in 5 minutes, same for an LCV. For some vehicles, it's going to be 10-15 minutes, but given we want to give the vehicle more and more range, we want to be able to put more and more hydrogen in the vehicle. And this is one of the challenges of tomorrow. We want to go from a flow of 1 kilo per minute to 10 kilos per minute in filling up the tank. And this so as to enable the hydrogen vehicle to be a high-use vehicle. You know that on the Lido site here, there is a forklift. You have forklifts which operate 24 hours a day, powered by hydrogen. So HRS, you are based in the Rhône-Alpes region. Yes, you're part of the ZEV project, but you're also part of HY in Ile-de-France. Yes, ZEV, of course, which a project we are accompanying. HYPE in Paris, for example. These are taxis, hydrogen-powered taxis. You know that one of the hydrogen mobility uses here, we want to develop 40-odd stations in the coming years. And then there's also the question of the corridors, where we want to have the possibility of moving throughout France with these hydrogen-powered vehicles. Thank you, Olivier. I'm going to ask Valérie and Jean-Luc to each take a microphone when Jean-Luc hangs up. Now, we are going to ask you both to take a microphone. Now, what's interesting is that you came together. We need to look at the question of stations and the objectives. You know that France Hydrogène and the TFA have been working together. So the PFA is there to accompany the automobile sector. We want to ensure that the vehicles put on the road can, in fact, find stations for refueling. We're speaking of an ecosystem. We saw that there are uses which are going to call for mobility other than electric, for example, a combined electric hydrogen mobility. So we need to have a network with a highly decarbonized hydrogen with electricity. And then there's the molecule produced by the decarbonized electricity. So we need to have the decarbonized energy source and a network. Whether we talk of LCVs today and as of 2025 rather than 2027, I hope that this will be possible for heavy industrial vehicles. So what we have tried to do is look at what will be necessary volume-wise in the different segments. And so what should be the positioning of these hydrogen stations? So with the LCVs and trucks, we can determine mobility flows, and we have looked at the model necessary. I would say that globally speaking, if we take the capacity mentioned by the different car manufacturers and their suppliers, saying they can produce 300,000 vehicles a year by 2030, 2030. If we look at TCO, total cost of ownership will be around 100 to 150,000 vehicles, but we need to have a network meshing, which would imply the availability of 400 to 800 stations. In fact, we would need 915 by 2030. 747 for new cars. This master plan was defined to guarantee an economic model for the stations by choosing locations where there is sufficient traffic to have a good economic model and to ensure certain zones are well covered. That was step one. Step two, with the different regions, we want to confront them to the existing network to have a tool which will show the development of this station up through 2030. What's important is that the European regulation imposes a certain pace as well. So you have the FIR, which is the regulation on the alternative energy infrastructures, which is going to impose on the 27 member states the obligation to build both electric recharging stations and hydrogen stations. This imposes 650 hydrogen stations in France. When we look at the projection of vehicles for the future, this would be a minimum. The member states have the obligation by 2027 to propose plans for the deployment of these stations so as to achieve that minimum level. So, we have seen that the industrialists have a combined offer. We saw this by GCK, HYVIA, and others. At Stellantis, Richard MEILLAUD, do you have a partnership? I'd like to say that we obviously support all of the initiatives that have been developed here, because you know that the existence of the infrastructures is very often a blockage for our customers to opt for these new energies. Now, we have a partnership with ENGIE, which enables us to offer custom-made solutions. So if someone has a fleet of just a few vehicles, 5, 10 vehicles, we are in a situation whereby we can offer them an offer which is customized and adapted to that fleet of 5 to 10 cars. And we can change scales as the customer increases the size of its fleet. So we have this possibility to make proposals according to the customer fleet size. And what this means is that ENGIE, our partner, will make the necessary investment and the customer pays for the recharging, the refueling. Thank you. And that's for the information on the training now of networks to after sales. Let's listen to Pascal Blanchard, who has been very, very patient. SYMBIO is a training institution, and they, in fact, they are an academy to train the future Top Guns of hydrogen. Yes, indeed. The goal is to train a whole sector. We're not going to do this by ourselves, of course. We're going to have we're working with a fund of pioneers with Eneris, engineers, schools, and this for the production of some 50 modules to train the technicians in this sector. First, at our level, we have gone from just 10 or so employees to several hundred in a few years. Then we turn towards our customers and outside world, and then the distribution sector. What does this mean? Well, today we have some 50 training modules. Some are e-learning. We can train up to 5,000 people. You said that you're training for internal needs, but also training outside people. Yes, of course, customers. We need to demystify the technology, which is not yet known by the repair shops. And so here, in terms of after sales, we can focus on the problems linked to our expertise, but the networks have to help us with the more simple things like maintenance and day-to-day servicing. Thomas? Training is very important for the PÅLE CARA, I imagine. Yes, we, as a PÅLE, as a cluster, we took part in this as well with the consortium and throughout the lifetime of the project. Our objective is to link up the project with the campus and of professions and qualifications of automobility. The goal here is to train the technology teachers so that they in turn can train their students. Thirdly, we are working to create educational tools for the public at large. Can you give us an example? Safra is one of your customers. Do you help them?
Nos tout premiers clients.
Well, indeed, there were among our very first customers, and we've developed a training offer. And the purpose is to transfer competence to our customers so that we really establish a fully fledged partnership and to be efficient on the new products. Olivier, you have a new school, HRS school. Yes, in fact, we have been facing the same issues. We have moved from 30 people to 130 people between 2020 to 2023. So the newcomers had to be trained if we really want them to be efficient. And we need to bring about the know-how in the area of hydrogen. So it's a new, let's say, sector not very much taught in schools, and we are following symbiosis model. The idea is to train the newcomers, new employees, and in the future we would like to open up this school to train a whole sector so that this can also be profit for the entire sector, not just for us as a company. Now, the first president of France Hydrogène, we would now to talk about training. Recently, you talked about a project which is known as DEFI or challenge, which, yes, well, in fact, the actual thinking started very earlier on. We started with a sort of white paper on required competences. So that is, in fact, to have an idea of what the needs are in terms of training, I mean initial training, but also continuous training. And we have identified 80 different métiers, and we're having with Pôle emploi, at DECO, to establish a sort of diagnosis in terms of competence needs, so skills needs. We identified a number of priorities. The first one is linked to security, or safety rather, and the second one is focusing on the hydrogen systems as such. And we found out that we had to face a dual problem. First of all, shortage of trained headcount, I mean trained to hydrogen, and at the same time there has been an increase in job offers. In fact, offering has increased by 77%. And last year there were 70,000 offers, and the top job that is last for is project manager in hydrogen. So we have been working on those in this. The issue is that 85% of those jobs, in fact, are under tension. That is, in fact, we need to accelerate the training process. Why is that? In France, we identify that the hydrogen sector can represent up to 150,000 jobs, and the same applies to Europe as a whole. You have a project known as Green Skills for Europe, Europe's projects, and the issue is how can we train people? And this hydrogen In fact, in 2050 will be 5.4 million jobs for the hydrogen sector by 2050, and the training needs to be starting now. So France Hydrogène is involved alongside 30 other partners with many member states being represented. So it's an issue which is not specific to France. It's specific to the development of the hydrogen sector, and therefore applies I mean, not just in France, but in other countries. But how can you find people to recruit if you're willing to talk about your recruitment? Well, let's say that we are rather lucky. My HR said that he's envied by colleagues. Last year, we had 10,000 applications, and for 200 people we hunted to hire. Yes, you had plenty of choice. No, it doesn't change anything to what Valérie said, because for very specialized jobs, like electrochemicals, there it is difficult. HR and R&D teams are highly international, not only because it's difficult to find quality people, but we also want to diversify and also to attract the best possible persons from all over the world. So we are an attractive company, and we also take advantage of the changes occurring in the automotive sector. Well, to recruit new people for our factories or our R&D centers, it is difficult to find people with the right profile trained to the hydrogen technology, but we also train people in-house. We have a set of employees who can, in fact, train newcomers, new employees. This helps to speed up the training of the newcomers into their new job stations, and we're trying also to attract the best possible profiles. Well, just a few words to supplement what was said. The hydrogen sector is short of competencies, but anything that has to do with decarbonation, renewable energies. So what the region does is to increase the engineering training sector. Well, we have increased the training offer by 25%, so to train engineers and assistant engineers. We also focus on enhancing professional vocational training via CFA, but also via other organizations. And we also support companies and employees to increase their skills base. So again, the region is there to continue to support the industrial sector, and particularly when it comes to the relocation of that industry in the region. Well, you have been setting up a whole range of training programs within Renault. Yes, that's a good transition in recruitment. 80% of the hirings, in fact, are engineers. The major stake for a manufacturer is, of course, to make vehicles, put them on the road, but also to maintain and repair them. The difficulty is that, in fact, we have decided to establish internal modules. In fact, this is in fact via Renault Academy, so that we have a sort of war machine, if I may put it this way, that can intervene in France, in Europe, and even worldwide. We had to establish different levels of training to also establish, let's say, habilitation levels or certification levels, so very much focused on safety. We have, on the one hand, training to the product, that is how you repair or maintain the product knowledge. For that purpose, we train people whom we could call ecotech. Ecotech are the most, I would say, trained technicians. But we also found out that it's not just the technicians that need to be trained. In fact, when, for example, a vehicle is sent out to a given business, then they know how to get organized. So this was capped, so to speak, by training module, a specific training module, because it's good to get people aware about the risks involved. And we trained some of the line managers in order to really protect the head of establishment. So they, establishment leaders need to be protected from the liability point of view for the work performed by the workers. So when we train people to use tools and equipment, basically we want to introduce a sort of a label so that a given site is granted a label, meaning that it can welcome and repair such hydrogen vehicles. In the Aura region, Rhône-Alpes region, the site is located, in fact, in the southern part of Lyon. Well, if you allow me, I'd like to make a small remark. Something you need to avoid is to drive through Aura, Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes. Please, don't say Aura, say Rhône-Alpes, Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes. That's how basically people prefer to use the full name rather than the acronym, which is Aura. Well, we need to avoid immobilizing the vehicle, and if it has to be immobilized, the immobilization's period has to be as short as possible. We have tens of thousands of technicians who have been trained, who are operational, and since 2021 we have been marketing hydrogen-powered vehicles. And as was explained before, we need also to train the entire chain from the customer's viewpoint. When he needs support or help, his journey, his experience has to be very simple. The idea is to have just one contact person. Of course, behind that single contact person, we need to have people with the training and with the competence. And of course, we have a policy thereby we select those point of sales who are able to repair these vehicles. We call them H expert centers, H for hydrogen. And then we have the flying engineers, highly qualified. They can travel to the specific sites to deal with specific issues. And then next to that we have a hub per country. That's the place with the proper level of equipment and with the relevant competences. So there are different levels in order to respond to the different needs and at the same time to respond to all of that as quickly as possible. You have the manufacturers, equipment makers, and then the service providers. Well, to supplement on what was said so far about training, this sector is supported by the Hydrogen Academy. And we are very well involved. We are in fact, also contributing to the development of the ecosystem. You have been talking about the French hydrogen team, like a rugby team. Yes, we do have all the stakeholders represented, and our role as a sector is to support the start, the takeoff, and then we need also to scale up, and this requires that all activities, that all, let's say, trades grow at the same time. We need to produce decarbonated hydrogen at an affordable price. We need to sell the products. There will be trucks, there will be buses. They already have hydrogen-powered LCVs, but for the time being, prices are high because of the limited volume. We also need the infrastructure. We know that some of the rules, like in terms of number of infrastructures required, have been imposed by Europe, but this requirement is not enough. We need to go even further. We need to enhance our training of engineers. A whole ecosystem is being set up, and that's the reason why when we talk about the automotive sector, it's not just automobiles, it's also what we call mobility. Well, maybe a word of conclusion. Well, you are lucky, you are happy to have this exhibition with different types of cars, including the hydrogen-powered vehicles. Yes, well, first of all, thank you for organizing a roundtable on hydrogen. From a symbol point of view, it's quite important and it's really useful. In the Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes, we were able to structure the sector. That was because of the involvement of the players. 154 industrialists are involved. Some of them acting as their core business. So universities and higher education schools are also involved in on R&D, sorry. And you also have the clusters. So in other words, plenty of actors are involved so that we can cover the whole chain from production, storage, distribution, vehicles, retrofitting, equipment makers. So this is a testimony to the future success of that sector. Well, thank you. I'm happy because we finished sharp on time. When I launched this project of organizing such a conference on hydrogen, and I said we'll have more than 10 people being represented, and yet it's more than 10 people, and everybody was able to speak. So once again, I would like to thank all our speakers. Well, let's take a family picture. So once again, thank you very much. Within 15 minutes, we shall be starting the very last conference of the day, dedicated to remote diagnosis. So we're coming back to the repair activities. Repairers will discover what remote diagnosis and repair is all about. So let's come back here within 10 minutes.